Hypothalamus artificial intelligence, HI. Digital transformation powered by real-time autonomous and intelligent algorithms. Presents the short conference, Sparse Artificial Intelligence. It corresponds to one of several short conferences, in which the advances of HI research are presented, on the topic of artificial brains and decision-making artificial intelligence. The list of short introductory lectures to decision-making artificial intelligence are presented in the picture. Sparse artificial intelligence. Another important contribution of Hawkins is related to the multiple brain models of the same object working cooperatively. For example, to recognize an object, 5 models of that object can intervene, each of them generated by one of the senses that the human being enjoys. Complete knowledge occurs when the knowledge generated by all models in all layers are integrated. Thousand brains theory of intelligence implies multiple models of an object, each model depends on a point of view. All models work cooperatively to identify the object, or situation. The identification starts from the sampling process, and progresses until it finds that all the models converge, that is, they agree, and at that moment the object, or the situation, has been identified, and the process is done through the flow of information in the neocortical regions. Sparse artificial intelligence. The Hawkins network model introduces a new feature in cortical columns that proposes that a representation of location calculated within the subgranular layers of each column. The representation of location is relative to the object being sensed. Pairing sensory features with locations is a requirement for modeling objects and therefore must occur somewhere in the neocortex. Hawkins proposes it occurs in every column in every region. The network model contains 2 layers and 1 or more columns. Simulations show that small single-column networks can learn to recognize hundreds of complex multidimensional objects. Given the ubiquity of columnar and laminar connectivity patterns, the columns and regions have more powerful recognition and modeling capabilities than previously assumed. This section is based on the paper Why Does the Neocortex Have Layers and Columns? A Theory of Learning the 3D Structure of the World. Neocortical regions are composed of columns and layers that performs robust object learning and recognition. Columns integrate their changing inputs over time to learn complete models of observed objects. Lateral connections across columns allow the network to more rapidly infer objects, based on the partial knowledge of adjacent columns. Because columns integrate input over time and space, the network learns models of complex objects that extend well beyond the receptive field of individual cells. The image presents the hierarchical distribution of neurons in the neocortex, joining brain, neocortical columns, simple neurons and ion channels. This is the starting point of the Hawkins model. In summary, the modeling of the structure of neocortical regions is organized into columns and layers. Connections between layers run mostly perpendicular to the surface, suggesting a columnar functional organization. Some layers have long-range lateral connections suggesting interactions between columns. Similar patterns of connectivity exist in all regions, but their exact role remain a mystery. All regions have a motor output. Hierarchical temporal memory, HTM, is a biologically constrained machine intelligence technology developed by Numenta. Hawkins' work gives rise to the HTM neuron, that is intended to emulate the overall structural and functionality of the human neocortex. The main properties of HTM is hierarchical structure, sparsity and modularity. Hawkins proposes the concept of regions, groups of cells organized hierarchically, interconnected, but with a low density of links, sparse. This is the fundamental representation of the 3D connectivity of neurons in the neocortex. In 1962, the Dutch mathematician Jacques Benders publishes his theory of partition that is a transcendental step, not the first, in parallel computing, aimed at solving complex mathematical problems, dividing them into more elementary subproblems. Benders partition, or Benders decomposition, is a technique in mathematical programming that allows the solution of very large mixed linear programming problems that have a special block structure. This block structure often occurs in all real applications. Based on the concepts of partitioning and decomposition, it is possible to decouple a system, to obtain vertical structures partially similar like of the human neocortex. Problems can be connected in many ways, as Van Roy demonstrates in his proposal of cross-decomposition. Cross-decomposition makes possible to establish complex optimization processes, in which multiple large-scale methodologies are used, which allows to adjust the problems to the most convenient methodology for the solution of each subproblem. It also frees the decomposed problem of hierarchical tree-like structures, allowing horizontal communications between the subproblems of the problem. Problems can be connected in many ways, as Van Roy demonstrates in his proposal of cross-decomposition. The mathematical artificial neuron is a mathematical superstructure, representing a complete system. A mathematical artificial neuron network can be a neuron of a larger mathematical artificial neuron network. This law of transitivity is typical of large-scale modeling. Using large-scale methodologies, the mathematical artificial neuron can be divided into two, or more, mathematical artificial neurons, forming a mathematical network of artificial neurons. This process can be repeated, until the smallest mathematical artificial neurons, the atoms of the system, are obtained. This vision unifies neural networks with mathematical programming, the basis for structuring the cortex of an artificial brain. Galileo Galilei affirmed, "Mathematics is the language in which God has written the universe."